Ever wondered what a 30-year career in photography looks like? This week we talked to someone who's been through it all, from shooting weddings to working in a bank, and came out the other side with a thriving business.
Welcome to Commercial Photographer, your guide to marketing, creativity and growth. This is a podcast that helps professional, commercial, brand and headshot photographers navigate the competitive world of commercial photography with practical advice and actionable strategies to grow your business.
I'm very well, thank you, Sam. How are you?
Excellent. Yes, and today we have a guest with us. We have photographer Martin Hobby, so I think I will simply hand over to Martin and let him introduce himself. But before we hear from Martin, let me tell you about what an amazing episode we have speaking to him and his decades of experience. We're going to go through a crucial step that you might be missing in your career, and one that could dramatically accelerate your learning. We're also going to look at why building relationships with your fellow photographers, not seeing them as competition, is one of the smartest business decisions you can make. And we're also going to look at how you can turn life's biggest decisions into unexpected opportunities that can strengthen your skills and reliance. Hi Martin, welcome to the podcast.
Hello Marcus and Sam, it is absolutely fantastic to be here. I'm doing good. As you said, I'm Martin. I am a photographer, a general practice photographer based in Holmes Chapel in Cheshire in the UK. I've been shooting for 30 years this year. I started when I was a teenager. My dad was a semi-professional wedding photographer as well in the 60s and 70s. So in the 90s, we started shooting weddings together, really. And I haven't looked back ever since. I say that I have. I've tried to get out of it for the last 30 years, but it seems like it's the only thing I'm any bloody good at these days. So I've stuck with it.
That's really interesting, Martin, because you're taking me right back, because Holmes Chapel was where I went to school, and my dad was a wedding photographer.
Oh, wow.
Maybe even our dads were competitors back then.
Is incredible. Did you know that?
I used to go around and be the assistant.
Did you know that?
Well, I'm originally... Sorry.
Yeah, I'd seen Martin was from Holmes Chapel. Yeah.
I did not know that. So originally I'm from sort of southeast London, Kent area.
Okay.
So yes, been up here for 5 years now. The wife's from this area, so we moved back up to be close to her family, and I love it. It's so much nicer than where I used to live.
Cool. So you started out in the southeast of England with your dad. That's where the photography started.
Yeah, that's right. And it was sort of one of his friends got in touch. Was getting remarried, and he said he hadn't picked up a camera professionally for a few years. He was still a keen amateur photographer, and he taught me the basics of it. I mean, I knew how to use a handheld sort of Western Master light meter from when I was 4 or 5 years old, really, and manual cameras. But yeah, we shot his friend's wedding, and it went well. We didn't get a complaint. We quite liked the pictures. One of them now sort of really proud of as well. We were driving behind the bridal car and on the way from the church to the reception, and it broke down. And I sort of said to my dad, pull up behind it. And I just jumped out, didn't have time to grab a light meter. I was just using sort of his Nikon F from the 60s, so it doesn't have a built-in light meter. Guess the exposure, and I've got this cracking documentary shot before documentary wedding photography was a thing, of the driver tying the exhaust back on with the groom leaning over, and you can see his reflection in the hubcap, and then the bride's in the back window laughing. So yeah, I'm actually, most people cringe when they look back and see their early wedding photos, but no, that's one that I'm still pretty proud of, really. And yeah, we shot a few weddings together throughout the 90s, and then he had the idea of photographing dogs and pets and puppies at dog training classes, because we were sort of obedience handlers of dogs ourselves. My parents used to breed Shetland sheepdogs sort of when they were a bit younger as well. So we went along to dog training classes and we took pictures in the evening, and then went back the following week with a load of 7x5 prints and sold them for a £5 each. And I was pretty much a full-time dog photographer for a few years as well. Wow. So yeah.
Excellent. So you went from the stress of weddings to, the equally stressful trying to get dogs to do what they should do. But I guess if you're at dog training, maybe the dogs are actually behaving rather than running around in circles.
Well, you say that. People take their dogs training because maybe they're not so well behaved. But I think it's like anything. The old saying, never worked with children and animals, but children and animals are always easy. It's the parents and owners that are a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah.
So
I'm quite interested as well, actually. Sorry, go on. You go, Marcus.
no, Sam, you carry on, please. Go on. You're quite interested. You're saying.
I was going to talk about the move because that's quite interesting, as I talked to a few photographers about that. And obviously a move for a photographer is a big thing, as you're very much as a business embedded locally, aren't you? It's not like, for me, my customers are dotted all over. It doesn't matter. For a photographer, you've got to get in your car and see them. So kind of from a business point of view, what was that like, the move kind of in terms of your business?
It's been an interesting 5 years. I didn't really plan the move. And of course, I shoot less weddings now, but predominantly going back 5 years, my business was 50-50 weddings and the commercial stuff. And of course, weddings, you're booking a year or 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
Kent to Cheshire in 2018, and I had weddings down in Kent and London in 2019, 2020 even.
Yeah.
So of course, after the move, it took me a while to get local clients. I joined a local networking group, which again, that's a slow build. It's not an instant fix for getting work. But that really worked for me. And I'm not a member of that particular group anymore, but I still do face-to-face networking. And I'm a massive advocate of that as a self-employed photographer. I think that's fantastic, especially for weddings and commercial. People tend to think sort of business networking groups are only for commercial photographers. However, I picked up so many weddings from it. And I very rarely spoke about the fact that I was a wedding photographer. It does seem that because you're a photographer, people just expect that you photograph weddings and christenings and babies and whatever else. Now, I did used to manage a family portrait studio, so the one thing at the moment I don't shoot is family portraits. I've paid my dues at that. I'm not putting a toe back into those waters again, although never say never. But of course, people just presumed I was a wedding photographer. So I go along, I talk about all the commercial stuff I do, and people would naturally say, "Oh, you do weddings as well?" So I picked up weddings from it. So even if you're a wedding photographer, you're listening to this, and you're thinking face-to-face business networking isn't for you, it absolutely is. Just because the people in the room are wearing suits and they're talking about business stuff, they're still getting married. They still know people getting married. They've still got kids who are getting married. So yeah, it can absolutely work. And also, I was introduced to a couple of wedding venues, and I was put onto their books, which really helped me being in a new area. And picking up the wedding work at the time. So that was fantastic. The other difficulty, of course, for my move, 200 miles, was I was just getting my business sort of back to the level I was used to. And then COVID hit in 2020. And that, again, it wiped out weddings for all of us. And it wiped out the corporate events that we were doing. And also I shoot a lot of headshots. And of course, no one was in their offices or no one had had a haircut for 6 months. So no one wanted a headshot taken either. So yeah, that was interesting. Thankfully, as I've done so many things over the past 30 years, I kind of put a shout out on social media and started shooting more product shots again. Because it seemed that a lot of people were starting home-based businesses or making and selling things. So I did some product photography during that time. And the other little weird niche I fell into was camper van photography. I think in about 18 months, I shot 9 or 10 camper vans. Where people, where people were doing them up and then either renting them out or doing them up for other people and selling them on. It seemed quite a booming business during the COVID years. So yeah, that was quite interesting as well, really. And then I think, actually, what are we now? 2023, and I shot my last pre-COVID wedding this year. So that's how much of an effect it kind of had. It was a couple that, they cancelled completely, and then they got back in touch after everything was out of the way. And again, that was a wedding that was down south for sort of an old friend, an ex-photographer friend of mine. So yes, I'm still travelling up and down the M6 and the M1, occasionally sort of shooting work down in Kent and the southeast as well. So
cool.
So you were saying that you got, obviously that's a very long career, 30 years. You started off with your dad shooting weddings, and then you've gone to doing family portrait photography. But I think looking through your CV, you did study photography as well.
I did, but only because I couldn't do pottery at school. And that is the truth. My GCSEs, I wanted to do ceramics. I wanted to make plates. Like that old BT advert with Maury Littman. Oh, the world will always need plates. I wanted to make plates, and well, not necessarily plates. I wanted to do pottery, but
Wow.
I was the only person in the whole school who wanted to do that. So they said, Martin, we're not running that class. Pick something else for your GCSEs. And I went, oh, all right, I'll do photography. Photography was the obvious option because, again, my dad being into it already, and I think me not wanting to do photography was a small act of rebellion against my dad at the time. Yeah. So I did GCSE photography, and then I went to college and did a BTEC in it, and absolutely wasted 2 years at college. I look back now, and it's like I had access to studio black and white darkroom. We had a color darkroom. We even had a Photoshop back in this was like 93. I went there. And I just absolutely wasted it just getting stoned all the time. So, yeah, don't do drugs, kids. Study at college and use the facilities that are available to you because lighting equipment is very expensive.
And have you always been a freelancer, Martin?
No, I tried being self-employed between 97 and 2002. But I didn't really have much business acumen. And also, again, working alongside my dad, who had a full-time job as well. But he was giving me a massive hand, and I'm forever grateful to him for helping me out with the business side of things. He was the person who actually got on the phone and booked a lot of the work in for us. But then, unfortunately, in 2000, he passed away very suddenly. So losing my dad and my business partner at the same time really hit me hard. That was a difficult couple of years after that. And I limped on. Doing the dog training classes and doing the odd wedding, but I really didn't know what I was doing, and I'd really had sort of lost my way. So then in 2002, I decided I needed to get a job, as in working for someone else. So I went to work for Venture Portraits. At a studio down in Kent, and then I was at Venture from 2002 to 2008, I believe, and I worked my way up from just being a photographer there, and I ended up being the general manager of the studio, and that experience was fantastic because it taught me how to run a business, and the importance of actually, it's not just about being a creative. If you want to make a living at photography, you need to know and understand the business side of things too.
And Venture Venture, just to clarify for some listeners, because Venture are a high street chain of portrait photographers, mainly family portraits.
That's correct. Yes, yeah. They at their peak, they had, I think it was 100 studios across the UK, and they really raised the game in terms of the style of family portrait photography at the time, and also I think they raised the prices. Venture do have their detractors, and I find that quite weird from other photographers complaining that Venture were expensive or what Venture were doing, because a rising tide lifts all boats. Venture were out there 20 years ago charging £1,000 for a wall portrait, and they weren't putting anyone out of business because the type of people who were going to Venture were people who could afford £1,000 for a wall portrait. So all these other photographers, instead of moaning about them, they should have just put their prices up. They would have still been cheaper than Venture, and they would have made more money. That was it with Venture, really. And then I decided I wanted to get out of photography. I got to 30, and it was like, right, all I've ever done is photography. I want to get out of it. I want a boring 9-to-5 job. So I went to work for a bank. At probably the worst time you could go and work for a bank, which was the 2008 financial crisis.
Oops. Yeah. Good time to start.
Yeah, I've never had particularly good time in thinking about sort of the history of my business now. But yes, I went to work for a bank, just as an account manager in a local branch of Lloyd's, and I was there for 9 months, and I decided to resign on my birthday as a present to myself because I realised that the corporate life wasn't for me. I remember once I went in a pair of zebra skin shoes, and I got called into the manager's office, and she said, Martin, what makes you think it's acceptable to wear zebra skin shoes in a bank? and I could not think of a single reason why it wasn't acceptable. There was people coming up to me in the banking hall, just like, "Oh, it's great to see someone with some individuality here." But of course, working for a bank, they don't want individuality. They just want you to be a corporate bod, and that is not me. So yes, I resigned. I didn't really have a plan. I'd been doing a little bit of photography on the side again. I bought my first digital camera, my own first digital camera. We were using Venture, but yeah, I bought a Nikon D90, and I got back to doing a little bit of the dog photography again at the dog training classes. But I didn't really have any other plan other than that. I just knew I had to get back to photography. That made me realise that it's a calling more than anything, really. Yeah. So went back into photography, and I was just about to put in an order for like £1,000 worth of sample products and frames and stuff, because I was going to go back to doing what I know, which was family portraits and things like that. And this was on a Friday night, and I thought, no, have a think about it over the weekend. That's a lot of money. And I went out skateboarding on the Sunday night, and I broke my foot in half a dozen places, and I was in a cast for the next 4 months. So being self-employed, well, just gone, again, technically, I wasn't even self-employed. I'd literally resigned from a bank, and I had garden leave and 2 weeks holiday pay to kind of get me by. So I kind of fell through the cracks. And at the time, that was pretty dark, really. Just my wife was working, but we didn't have any money coming in from me at all. But looking back, it was one of the best things that happened to me. It forced me to stop and absolutely reevaluate what I wanted to do with my life. And instead of doing the family portrait photography, I knew that I wanted to do a bit more commercial work. And I wanted to pursue the other passion of mine, which has always been music or listening to music. I haven't played in a band for many years. So I made it a goal to kind of do some music photography as well. So I just started going to the local rock pub in Dartford where we were living, and got to know the local bands and the promoters. And I shot some of the local bands live, ended up doing promo work for some of the local bands. Some of the local bands then went on to play at a heavy metal festival called Bloodstock, and I got a photo pass through the local promoter to go along to Bloodstock Festival. One of the photos that I took at the first year I went to Bloodstock ended up winning me the SWPP Event Photographer of the Year.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was also used by Bloodstock for their advertising campaign. So the following year, I went back as an accredited photographer for Bloodstock. At a similar time, I also bumped into an old friend who we used to hang around with in our teenage years. And he was like, "Martin, you still doing photography?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of music photography, Russ. What about you?" And he said, "Well, I'm the art director for Q Magazine." So that was a really fortuitous meet-up. So he commissioned me for Q Magazine. So I ended up sort of shooting a few larger events. And one of the most, the most amazing job I've ever had to date, I think, was going out to the Spanish Pyrenees Mountains and shooting a rave in a cave for Q Magazine. That was absolutely fantastic. I know it's probably not as glamorous as you, Marcus. You've been all around the world sort of photographing your jobs. But yeah, that was a real high for me. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, no, great magazine as well. Great magazine at that time as well, I have to say. Especially for photography, they used it very, very well.
They did. And I think I saw a post recently. The Q Magazine is just being relaunched after a couple of years or a few years hiatus. It's just coming back again. So yeah,
it's just good to hear.
It's cool.
I've not done music photography for a few years now. It was as my son was getting a little bit older, and he was more awake in the evenings as he was sort of a toddler and stuff. It was like, do you know what? Instead of going out 4 or 5 nights a week photographing bands, I just wanted to spend a bit more time with him. So then I made the transition over to more corporate work. And headshots and things like that. So yeah, that kind of roughly brings us up to date.
Amazing. It's quite interesting that breaking your foot actually was really positive in a way, giving you that time to reflect and think rather than just, automatically sleepwalking into what to know and carry on.
It was, yes. I like to call it my Robert Johnson moment, but instead of meeting the devil at the crossroads and exchanging my soul for the blues, I met the devil at the crossroads and exchanged arthritis in my left foot for great photography skills.
Very similar story.
Similar.
And so, as you say, now you're known really, well, as I know you for, mainly for your corporate, your headshots and event work. But it's really interesting to hear that you've done so many different genres of photography, which is all adds to your skills.
Yeah, one day I'll even be good at what I do. Maybe I don't know. I look back and it's like I've done so much, but am I more of a jack of all trades, master of none? I don't know. But it does seem in recent years, or certainly the last 18 months, I am focused on headshot work now.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of health conditions, and my foot still hurts from where I broke it 14 years ago now. So that is one of the reasons why I'm slowing down on weddings, especially full day weddings, because on the day I'm absolutely fine. The adrenaline keeps you going, but the day after, my foot it swells up and I can barely walk the day after shooting a 12-hour wedding. I've also got something called ulcerative colitis, which is under control now. But when it's not under control, that can cause you issues if you're at a wedding, because you need to know where the toilets are very quickly sometimes.
Yes.
So yeah, and I'm happy kind of talking about these things. It's like, I think since I've been more open with my own health, or my own health problems, I speak to other photographers, or they get in touch, also suffering from something similar, because I think things like this, we keep them to ourselves, we hide them away. And especially wedding photography, it is such an intensive workload. Because
it's a stress on the mind and the body and all sorts, isn't it?
It is. It's a fantastic day, and it's like I say, the adrenaline just keeps you going. But again, as we get a little bit older, we may not be quite so healthy. We spend a lot of our time in a sedentary position, just editing pictures, and then once a week, you're out for 12, 14 hours. And that's not good on the body. So unless you're keeping sort of physically strong throughout the week as well, it can be a real stress. So yeah, that's something sort of I'm more than happy to talk about with other photographers now, and I'm still coming to terms with it myself. But I think the more that people talk about our health issues, the stronger we can all become. That we're not going through things like this alone as well.
Yeah, I think that's important. And just photographers talking, as I think we've talked about this before, haven't we, Marcus? You go to networking events and there's other photographers there, and some people really say, oh my God, my competition's there, what I'm going to do. While actually a much better approach is actually, these are people doing similar things to me. I can learn a lot from them. They can learn a lot from me. Let's have a chat, and build a community rather than go, oh, it's the competition. I must, move around and pretend they're not there.
Absolutely. Our photographers are some of my biggest referrers. And I think when I made the move from Kent to Cheshire, I just joined loads of local kind of wedding groups, or more business photography related groups, not just your local sort of photography groups.
Yeah.
And I made a point of just becoming known in those groups. And I picked up second shooting work from doing that.
Yes.
And of course, that led on to then the photographers getting to know me. So if they couldn't make a job, they'd then refer work to me. And now in the Cheshire area, the photographers that I've met over the last 5 years are some of my closest friends. Mm-hmm. And there's a little group of us now as well. We meet up. We've only met up once so far. We've got another meeting planned for next week, where we just meet up. We don't talk photography. We talk business. Because again, we're all doing very similar work in a very similar area, but we can all help ourselves. Again, going back to that venture mindset of a rising tide lifts all boats. And we can help each other out through the various issues that we have in our business. And it's a great referral network, because again, if I can't make a job, I would sooner refer that work on to someone that I know and like and trust, because then I know that the client is going to look favorably on me, because I've referred someone who's going to do an amazing job. And also the other photographer's going to go, Martin referred some work to me. I'm going to refer some work to Martin as well. And I think it's only a good thing photographers working together. Of course, there's the odd people in the industry who do want to hoard everything. And I don't see the point in that, because you never grow. I get a lot of other photographers messaging me, or in the groups that I'm in, asking for advice, and I'm more than happy to share pretty much everything I know, because the more I share, that means, or that kind of forces me to refill my own the way that I do things. It forces me to learn more and come up with new ideas myself. If I've given everything away, it's like, right, everyone else now does what I do, or now knows what I know. So then I want to seek more knowledge to become better as well. So I think it's only a good thing that we share knowledge amongst each other.
Yeah, amazing. And I think we're kind of... Sorry, Marcus, have you got a...
I was going to say the same as you. I think we're getting to the end of the show.
I had a quick question,
yes,
though, maybe to finish with,
yes.
unless you do, Marcus, which was, I was going to say, given all this experience you've got, if somebody's starting out, if you had like one piece of advice, Martin, what do you think it would be?
Wow. Get to know other photographers. Or do you know what? No, the one piece of advice for someone, if they really are starting out and they're right at the beginning of their career and they're still quite young, assist. I never did it, and I really wish I had.
Yes.
I really wish I had assisted and I'm going to use the words proper photographer. I don't mean someone like me. I don't mean the local family studio. I don't mean the local wedding photographer. I mean, go to the guys who are at the top of their game. Go to the guys for the magazines that you look through and you read. Speak to Rankin. Speak to the people who really are at the top of their game and learn from them. Yes. Because they're at the top of their game for a reason. And it's probably I've got a couple of photography regrets, but that is one of the biggest ones. That I did not assist.
I did assist when I left university for about 4 or 5 years, and he was one of the top advertising photographers in possibly in the world at that time. And I still shoot with him in mind, and my practice is based around everything I learned at that stage. So you're quite right, Martin. Well done for shouting that one out, actually. Not often heard these days, is it, assisting?
Yeah, it seems it can be a job in its own right. I've got a couple of friends who, not so much now, but even in their late 20s, 30s, they were pretty much full-time assistants, and it provided them with a career. Actually, I did try to start assisting just before I broke my foot, and the only phone calls I had I was laid up, foot was in a cast, and I had calls from these photographers I got in touch with saying, "Yeah, can you assist?" And I'm like, no. And again, because I'd said no that first couple of times, they never got back in touch again. So that is a bit of a regret of mine.
Nice one. Thank you.
Well, it has been amazing speaking to you, Martin. A huge range of topics we've managed to cover, loads and loads of interesting things. So thank you so much. There will be a little bit extra for Martin as usual. If you are a newsletter subscriber, you will be able to get the little bonus extra. If you're not on the newsletter, you can go to the website. We have a new website now, shoottothetop.com, nice and simple to find. You can sign up to the newsletter there. And also Martin is on our Facebook group, and on the Facebook group there's loads of other people guests from the show and other photographers come and join us. I'll put the link for that in the show notes. So thanks so much, Martin. Great to have you with us.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. I have to say as well, Marcus, I must apologise. I think that is the least I've ever heard you talk on one of our podcasts, or say our podcasts. These podcasts.
I was very interested in what you were saying there, Martin. I was enthralled. It was very, very interesting. I can see a lot of parallels in your career to mine as well. So it's really nice to hear that.
Well, that was fantastic. Martin certainly makes for being a very informative and entertaining guest. So what did we discuss? Well, we talked about how assisting can be a game changer for your career. We also discussed the incredible value of building a strong community of photographers for referrals and support. And finally, we've shown you how to navigate personal and professional challenges by adapting your skills and mindset.
And don't forget that you can get for free the Commercial Photographer Guide to Creativity and Marketing. After all, that's what this show is all about. To get your free download, all you need to do is go to our website at commercial-photographer-podcast.com/creativity. Let me do that one again. commercial-photographer-podcast.com/creativity. And from there, you can get your free guide from us to marketing and creativity. Cool. And Marcus, I will see you next week.
Yeah, next week. Next week it is, Sam. God, time is flying, isn't it? Gosh.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you want to make sure you never miss a show, head to our website and sign up for the newsletter. We'll be back next week with more practical advice to help you grow your business. See you next time.